the users of your product can sell your product better than you ever can, right? So we have been in the relationship economy for many years. The two biggest problems that any e-commerce brands face, and that actually transcends a little bit more on the subscription side of things, but want to look for the opportunity to hustle harder.
Are there businesses out there that you should be thinking about subscription?
All of them. And what people don't realize, the small business is the engine of our country, small business.
Hey everybody, Chris George here from SUBTA. Excited today in regards to our Hope in Crisis series. For those of you that might not be aware, we started this series to really help those that are struggling through these tough times. As SUBTA, we want to help this community, give you tips on things you can do during this time, different ways to work remotely, how to increase your business. And most importantly today, I'd like to talk about the subscription model as a whole and what I've seen other businesses do to introduce a subscription model and how you can think about introducing a subscription model yourself and a lot of the benefits of the subscription model. This is a talk that I do at certain schools that I've gone to, or if I get invited to a speaking session, a lot of times I will talk about this and some of the things that other brands are doing, how that can help you, give you some inspiration on how to introduce a subscription model to your brand. I'm also going to bring in some industry experts that can tell you the benefits of the subscription model, things to look for, and why this could be a viable revenue model for you. Even if you've currently got a e-commerce business, and maybe you don't, so you can think about it. Maybe you're in retail and you want to introduce an e-commerce model, thinking about a subscription for that is a great idea. So we're going to go into that right now. And thank you guys again for tuning in. I want you guys to all stay strong during this crisis, and we're here for you as always. So first thing I'm going to go into are some brands that started to introduce a subscription model that maybe conventionally you would think that they wouldn't be able to do that. So one of the brands I like to start with is Burger King. As many of you know, that's one of the largest fast food chains, and you might think that they wouldn't be able to introduce a subscription model into their brand, but they have. What they've introduced is for $5 a month, you can get a cup of coffee every day. What's the benefit to that? I think in some respects, maybe if somebody went in there every single day for the whole month, they might not make any money on that subscription. But the reality of it is if somebody's going in to get a cup of coffee, then they're more likely to get something else, right? They're going to get a breakfast sandwich. They're going to get hash browns. They're going to get another item. So in a sense, this subscription becomes like a loss leader for them. In some cases, they probably will benefit. The price of coffee is not expensive. They probably pay more for the cup than the coffee that's actually going in. However, what they've been able to do is build a relationship with the consumer. They're getting the consumer to come to their fast food chain to get coffee as opposed to going to somewhere else. And if you're in that subscription model, you're going to be more motivated to go there. You're going to be like, hey, you know what? I get my cup of coffee free. Let me go to Burger King. I'm hungry. Let me get a breakfast sandwich. And so that works really well for them. And so what they're doing is not only getting revenue from a customer that more consistently than they maybe would in the past, but they're also able to sell this customer other items. And in the long term, this is going to only increase their revenues. It's going to drive them customers that maybe weren't going there as often and get the customer to continuously come in, right? And they're building that relationship. Maybe they introduce a new product. They can do a special for those that are in the subscription model, can get a discount on trying this new sandwich. So they can get super creative, and it's all about that customer experience. And I think Burger King is, it's a big reason why they've made that adjustment. Another brand that might not be conventional is the Oakland A's. So the Oakland A's have introduced subscription models for their ticket sales for the ball games. And if you think about it, it makes sense. There's, 150 baseball games in a season. A consumer is probably not going to go to every game, right? There are different times. A lot of times they're in the afternoon. But with their subscription model, it allows you to pay a monthly fee. It gives you X number of tickets at the ballpark. It gets you discounts on their memorabilia that's at the ballpark. Also, in some cases, you make it an X number of tickets, but at a minimum, you're still allowed to go to the ballpark on games where you don't have tickets to it, but you can still go and you can still hang out, right? Going to a baseball game is a part of the experience. So there's that whole environment part. And Oakland A's have seen nothing but a high increase in revenue. This one allows the consumer to pay for tickets over time as opposed to like a lump sum. It becomes a manageable expense, and it allows you to go to the games that you want to go to. So, it's almost a no-brainer. And again, this goes back to like this relationship and this experience that the brands are building with the consumer. So them going from conventional selling tickets, they're able to pivot to the subscription model. they're going to get a higher lifetime value from the consumers. They're going to drive more revenue from the consumers, and they're going to be able to build experiences with the brands. Cadillac has done this, where as opposed to just leasing a car, you can pay them a monthly fee. There's no lease terms. You're allowed to switch the car out X number of times per year. It includes insurance, and that could be really cool, especially maybe for somebody living in the city that doesn't want to have a car during certain months. Maybe during the winter they want to have a car. Maybe in the summer they don't because they're able to get on the subway or they're able to walk to work. And so you're able to turn that subscription on and off. And I think, Cadillac's still working towards that. What we're seeing are these brands that are pivoting this model. Under Armour has done it. Under Armour was your conventional e-commerce site where they're selling you products and goods, but they were able to build their subscription box, which sends you workout clothes monthly or bi-monthly or quarterly. You're able to, again, build this amazing experience with the brands. And sometimes you can get creative, like you might get exclusive shoes that get released to you before they get released to the public that's not in the subscription model. So you start to build that relationship, you get the customer engaged, and what you're gonna find is that you're gonna get higher revenue per year from the consumers that are on the subscription versus not on the subscription. I've seen in some cases where brands were getting a consumer to purchase on average 1.5 times per year. Under a subscription model, that could be as much as 12 times per year, right? So that's a huge change, a huge increase in revenue. And then again, it allows them to continuously come back to your business. If you're a retail business, let's say like Victoria's Secrets, for example, you can put them on a subscription. You can upsell them by saying, hey, here's a coupon to come back in the store and get a different item. And so there's a lot of different ways you can get super creative. And again, it's about building this brand relationship, and these brands that are pivoting the model are really seeing it. The next thing that I really want to get into too is the values of these businesses that have a subscription model associated with it. And I'm going to give you a couple examples of brands that have recently sold, those that are typical e-commerce versus brands that are subscription. So my first example is Movement watches. I'm sure many of you are familiar with them. They've got some amazing watches. They are trendy, they look great, and they're very affordable, right? So that was part of their core brand, was like, we can make you an amazing watch and you don't have to spend thousands of dollars for it. Movement Watches was doing $71 million a year in revenue. And in 2018, they sold for $100 million. Still a great number, right? But I'm gonna give you some comparisons to that. Another brand, Bonobos, which is a men's fashion brand where you walk into the retail shop, you get measured, you look at items they have, and then they ship you those products right to your door. And they keep those measurements on file. It's a really creative way for the experience of buying clothes. And so they did $150 million in revenue for the year and sold to Walmart for $310 million. That's a 2 times yearly revenue. So if I go down here to some other brands that are focused subscription first, one example is Dollar Shave Club. Dollar Shave Club is doing $200 million a year in revenue. They sold for $1 billion to Unilever. That's a 5X versus what we saw with Bonobos, which was a 2X. And in Movement Watches case was, 1.5X. Harry's Razors, over $200 million a year in revenue. They got an offer for $1.3 billion. Again, almost 5-6X. Why? Because this is continuous revenue. It's predictable revenue. Chewy.com was doing I think that their net loss was a negative $250 million, and they ended up selling for $3.5 billion. Like, they're almost getting a 10X multiplier. What are we seeing here, and why does that make sense? Is with the subscription model, you've got predictable income. You're able to forecast how much inventory you need based on how many subscribers you have. You get to measure the lifetime value of the customer based on how many months they stay on before they cancel, versus in e-commerce where you're getting a one-off purchase, right? So these brands that have this subscription model associated with it, they're getting much higher multipliers than brands that are just a typical e-commerce. And again, what's super important about this is they're able to build a relationship with the consumer. They're getting the consumer to purchase from them more often than they are purchasing from a competitor. And so it goes back to the predictable income. It goes back to the lifetime value of the customer, the frequency and the number of purchases that they're getting from the customer. These are all things that are going up and are all super beneficial because of the subscription model. And I truly believe nearly every business can build a subscription model within their brand. I encourage all of you to think about that. Think about what you do now, what business you have, whether it's retail, whether it's e-commerce, and how can we build a subscription model from it. So a local restaurant can get creative with subscriptions in a way where they could probably build a membership, right? So if a local restaurant has a membership where you pay, let's say, X dollars per month, you could do a couple different things. You could say for X dollars per month, you get 2 meals that are included in that, or you get a discount, you get 20% off your bill, meal, or you get free appetizers, right? If it's a restaurant you really like, you're going to take advantage of those perks. The perk to the restaurant is they get the consumer to come eat there every single month or every single week, as opposed to going to another place. And I think it just encourages, right? So like, if I know that I can go to restaurant A, and because I'm a member there, I get free appetizers, it's gonna encourage me to go to that restaurant versus a different restaurant. In the landscaping world, as we think about it, they already are currently in this subscription model, and they're charging you, let's say, weekly for the cuts. But you could get a consumer on a subscription plan that maybe includes them doing more than just the lawn cuts, right? It gets maybe they'll come out and they'll water certain plants, or if you go into their subscription model that's maybe X price per month, it'll include cleanup at the end of the year. In the summer, it'll include cleanup, or it'll include landscaping or trimming of the bushes. And you're able to like put together this package deal, right? So versus paying like $30 a week for your landscaping in your yard to get cut, they could say, hey, pay us $150 a month. We're going to trim your bushes. We're going to do X. We're going to do Y. You've got the consumer now to pay a little bit more. You're building a relationship with that consumer. And when they need something done, like maybe a tree trimmed or a tree cut down, or they want to add mulch, like they're going to come to you because you're giving them this amazing experience and you've got the relationship with them. If we're talking about auto mechanics, which might be an industry where people would say it's tough to build a subscription out of it, I think, you've got to trust your mechanic, right? And so again, going back to building this relationship, you could build a membership fee with your local mechanic that includes, a oil change every 3 months. And they also check air pressures, they check the fluids, and maybe once per year it includes, an air filter change. It includes a car wash. It'll include X number of tire changes per year, or tire fixes if you get a flat tire. And again, this goes to the mechanic building the relationship with the consumer having his trust in the mechanic, and maybe it allows you to space these charges over time, right? So you don't go to the mechanic and it's $100 because you've got to do an oil change and you got to change the air filter and you got to change the transmission fluid. Well, it's like you pay X fee, maybe it's X $70 or $50 a month, and over the course of the year it's $300, but it includes all these things that might have cost you $400 if you would have paid that separately over time. And now, guys, I'd love to introduce you to a friend of mine. His name is Ro. He's with Sticky.io, formerly known as Limelight CRM. And he's here today to talk about the benefits of the subscription model and some of the things that they're seeing from brands that have pivoted from e-commerce to subscription. Hey, Ro, thanks so much for being on episode 5 of Hope in Crisis. Ro, as an industry expert in the subscription space, you are with Sticky.io, formerly Limelight. Thank you again for being on the episode.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. This is amazing. This is the new normal we're trying to get used to. I've been with Sticky for about 3 years now. My name is Ro. I'm the COO at Sticky. I've mostly been with bigger companies like Home Depot and Google and Yahoo. I think Sticky.io was my first challenge to myself, that can I join a startup that is in this disruptive space that is taking and helping brands to understand and figure out what is subscription economy, what is relationship economy, what is subscription industry, what does that mean, and how can a company help these brands. So thank you for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Bro, I know we've been friends for the last 3 years, and when we met the first time, I think was at Shop Talk, and you've been a huge supporter of SUBTA. So thank you so much for that, and always being an advocate of our association, being a partner to the association, and being a sponsor to all of our events. So thank you for all that support. So in this episode, we've been discussing the benefits of the subscription model, where we see e-commerce brands, how they should be thinking about pivoting to that model. As an industry expert and running a CRM with multiple subscription companies on it, what are some of the things that you see, some of the benefits of the data, brands that you've seen pivot to the model? Give us some insight on that.
It's already too late to say that we're in a relationship economy. We have been in the relationship economy
Right.
for many, many years. There are brands that are catching up to it now, where we're talking about the two biggest problems that any e-commerce brands, that actually transcends a little bit more on the subscription side of things, but two biggest problems really. One is your cost of acquisition is really high, and your churn rate could be higher.
Right.
How do you avoid those two issues? You can spend money on marketing and you can acquire users in an interesting way, but that basically means that you have to optimize every touch point that your customer has with your brand. Meaning your average order value should be optimized at every touch point, just to make sure that your cost of acquisition is kind of being equated to, if you will. And that gives you more money. Which other business model will allow for that than subscription, right? And the way we're kind of thinking about things. And God, I was talking to a brand even today, amazing guys, Spiceology, and they're thinking about subscription now. They've done a pretty good job, and they're still selling spices to chefs and directly to consumers. And now they're thinking about how do we kind of figure out a subscription strategy. You wouldn't think about all these things on a subscription basis, but when you think about it, it makes sense because we're eating popcorn, we're putting spices in popcorn.
Yeah, it's depleting product.
So, yeah. So having that network effect of users through subscription model, very important. Second, it gives you a constant stream of revenue. Makes sense. It's just easier because now you've already acquired the user, so it's not expensive. Now you're just doing everything you can to retain that.
Yeah.
And third is really kind of just the community aspect that comes with it, which is your community, your sellers, the users of your product can sell your product better than you ever can, right? So having that social kind of virality within the ecosystem helps a lot. So we see a lot of brands who have traditionally been kind of on a one-time purchase model going into subscription, or at least trying out what does subscription mean. And by the way, it doesn't mean that everybody has to sell products on a 30-day basis. It could be a subscribe and save. It could be a bundling of things together and then subscription, all of that.
You also hit the nail on the head with the subscription. It's building that relationship community. It also, in a sense, kind of keeps the customer from shopping, keeps them shopping with you, right? Versus like shopping somewhere else, right? Whether it's a subscribe and save or
100%.
Right. And so, even that spice brand, I'm glad you brought that up because I like when people can start to think about how they can introduce subscription into their business. It's a depleting product, right? They want to try new spices every month.
Absolutely. And I think you kind of alluded to another good point that, we're talking about the social aspect of it. Once you have built that brand affinity with your customers ideally don't want to, yes, everybody has a short attention span and they want to kind of hop on to the next new thing, going from like Netflix to Amazon and then or Hulu to Netflix to Amazon, all of that happens. But once you have built that brand affinity and you're trying to help the customer even foray into newer things, newer content, newer products, newer subscriptions, whatever it might be, you've got that customer. Much easier for you to do that versus that. And then definitely kind of doubling down on that point that, look, when you have a subscription, you already know what your churn rate might look like. What is not from a cost perspective, but what is the lifetime value of this customer? If the customer is going to churn out usually 7-8 months, now you can backtrack it and figure out how much money can you afford to spend to get that.
Right. Thanks, Ro. Thank you so much for being on the show. One of the things I'm most passionate about and what I love doing is helping entrepreneurs grow. I love helping them in their business, whether it's retail, whether it's professional, whether you're already in the subscription model. Nothing gets me excited every morning than being able to help an entrepreneur build their business. I really want to encourage all of you to be thinking about the subscription model. And I'm here to be all eyes and ears for those of you that are wondering how can you pivot to it, whether you want to introduce a subscription model or you just have a question about what you can do in regards to working remote or staff policies. Like I'm here, I'm starting a little mini series where brands are going to reach out to me, get on the phone with you and record us talking about your business, how we can introduce a subscription model to it, how that could be super beneficial. I'd love for you guys to reach out. You've got my email. If you don't, it's chris@subta.com. And I'd love to hear from you guys. And I want to help all of you grow. I want to help you introduce a subscription model to your business. Thank you everybody for watching and all your continued support to SUBTA. Please make sure that you subscribe below. And please, if you have a chance, follow me on Instagram at ChrisGCares.